And that's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm battling in myself. That's what I'm praying for, is to pray for understanding in all this. Where do we align in all of this? Um, or could it be, Brother Matt? I mean, could it be that we are lining ourselves up to bring a place where, maybe it's the Abraham Accords that maybe somewhere down a year from now, 2 years from now, perhaps, we see that the Abraham Accords with Donald Trump, the initiative by Donald Trump to bring peace within the region, does this strike on Iran initiate some type of a regime change? And I know that's not popular. I know that word's not popular, regime change. But does a strike like this initiate something like that? Brother Matt, let's talk about regime change as part of what could be next. What is your sentiment? Obviously, look, I think I already know, but we saw what happened 20 years ago with an attempt of a regime change with Saddam Hussein. Do you think we're headed down a path of another regime change led by U.S. coalition?
I mean, to me, it's all about gambling. It's like if I had a revolver to my head and it's a supernatural gun, and if I get the answers to the question wrong, then bam, I'm dead, and let's just pretend I'm not a Christian. That's how I own way I can answer things. It's like I look at these pundits, and I am going to answer your question because I rewatched last video. It's like I didn't answer any of this guy's questions, but I look at these pundits, and what revolts me is certainty. I can't offer certainty, right? And I don't even feel appropriate to even really offer my opinion, on a lot of these subjects. As I mentioned in last episodes, I saw my conspiracy background, and I just don't feel like that's an adequate description. I feel like it demeans the culture and the environment, the education that I was sort of discipled up in, to reduce it down to that one word, calling it a conspiracy background. But I also think it's a little bit pompous to call it alternative history. I don't know what to describe it as, but it comes from a background of those who just don't trust government. And it was so I was so deeply cemented into that I was so happy to have found the Lord and to finally know that the Lord is real, the scriptures are real, because finally I could have a foundation of something that is, I wouldn't have doubt as I would preach and as I would communicate about. You see, in my conspiracy years, when I first entered in my 20s, I just copy and paste what other people said, what other books said, or other personalities said, and I didn't have that depth or degree of thought to be critical, to have critical thinking. I was really a repeater. You copy and paste. And I instead of repeating what the mainstream said, I repeated what the conspiracy people said. And I got subconsciously, I went on whatever the largest camp of conspiracy people say, I sort of, believed. But then little by little, my confidence was eroded. But yet I still spoke just as confident as I was in my 20s. And you wouldn't know that I was doubting things, And so, entering into Christianity, I was very happy to release myself from my political opinions, political insights, and that conspiratorial baggage, because I started to have 70-30 thoughts. I don't even know, if really, can two planes really knock down 3 buildings? I started reading the NIST report after having talked about it, which explains how the towers came down. And I was repeating everything the architects and engineers said for years, but then I sat down to read that report for myself. And I couldn't read it. I didn't have the technical acumen, the jargon, to even keep up the report. I wasn't educated enough. So I find myself in that same position here once again, where here I'm discussing topics, politics. I know those that get the most attention on these different talk shows and pundits are those who have this persona that just persists in berating their particular perspective, and they do it with confidence. I don't want to do that with confidence. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but I want to be what's called intellectually consistent with my arguments. And if I'm going to bring up libertarian constitutional philosophy, then if that's going to be my position in politics, I want to make sure I'm consistent with that narrative. So that's why, if you, when you ask the question about, do we have to declare war? Well, I mean, man, I don't know, but, libertarian philosophy would say that they haven't obeyed the Constitution in 60 years. I want them to get back to obeying the Constitution. In terms of, to answer your question, which I believe was, are we going to get regime change, or should we be seeking regime change? Was that even your question? What was your question?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Do you think that's what's coming?
I personally don't believe that's what's coming. My old wineskin tells me that the devil's never going to give up, right? And although I allow myself to believe, and I'm still fighting to hold on to this belief that God anointed Donald Trump to save America and to save the world, I never imagined that was going to involve preemptive attacks with such little case being brought to the American people. The way that I have always had Islam, regardless of which nation in particular described to me, is a relentless people that is at a war with America for what I call one time, I would say, for good reason, right? At one time, I saw America as the great Satan. I saw the West as the great Satan, the greatest exporter of evil in the world. And, I know that they look at us perhaps in part because of that, and perhaps because of their scriptures, okay? But I really believe that when they're over there in their generation and their schools and everything else, and, we like to say that we live by the book. They like to say they live by the book. But I think we do also live in the real world, and we live by optics of how America looks, And preemptive warfare just doesn't appear to be something that's going to get them to cower and pivot, per se. And I don't think I don't know what the actual inner dialogue of an Iranian is, or what the conflict is. Like here in the United States, I know, we're pretty much 50-50. We're neck and neck over here between Democrat and Republican thought and political leanings. And I don't have any voices over there to know what is the real dichotomy in the between the different perspectives of Iran, and even how the lack of freedom of speech disables them to actually say what their honest opinion is. But I do not believe that this is going to invoke them to just give up, go away. I do think that what we've seen over time is collateral damage having taken place, whether it's this generation or the next generation. Inevitably, what we see right now is who's taking the brunt of all this, who's actually dying. Although in small numbers, I guess, we have under 100 deaths right now in Israel, but it's almost as if they are. That's the nation right now that's going to suffer because of Benjamin Netanyahu's actions. And what we just don't know right now is whether or not there was actually a real threat. And I have to take them at their word in order to believe that. And I'm just not accustomed to doing so. And as I said in the last episode, if I was in office, if I was president of the United States, I would take people like me under consideration because we put you in office. I did it. It's us conspiracy people that brought you over the line, and that you should cater to us, knowing that we don't believe government stuff, but we do trust you, Donald Trump. We put our faith in you, okay? And we're not so quick to betray you because of how everything looks. And we want to have faith in you, but you've given us no data whatsoever. And the fact that he said that he was going to delay things for two weeks, and then struck them off in the middle of the night with this midnight barrage, or whatever they ended up calling it over there in the Pentagon. I don't care. I'm not saying it's disingenuous. Great, it's just to attack, sneak, surprise, but don't surprise me, the American people. It shouldn't be so difficult, I don't think. I mean, to give me the data, give me some semblance. You've only given me a headline. You haven't even given me a map. You haven't given me any photographic evidence. And what would have we seen, Alex, over the past, less than 24 hours now, is I don't have data, but what they're saying is that there hasn't even been any detection of nuclear leakage, of radiation leakage, okay? And my logic dictates that, firstly, did I want that? Do I want nuclear radiation to be leaking all over the Middle East right now because of what we've destroyed? I don't even know about that, but wouldn't that be conclusive evidence that we just destroyed nuclear bombs that were supposedly in the process of being created, or enriched uranium? And if you didn't present evidence to me before supposedly destroying the nuclear arsenals, right? How are you going to present it to me now that you've supposedly destroyed all the evidence? So you're creating a case for me to war against myself when I need you to give me a case in order to win over my hearts and minds so that I'm behind you as an extremely skeptical, political person. So no, I don't see that these people are going to cower and pivot and run for the caves. I think that even right now, if they have the appearance of giving up per se, that's only a deep-seated plan for their other allies to rise, and for whether we really do have sleeper cells here in the United States in order to take the stage, or what we've seen in the past. Who are the Houthis? Who are the Sunnis? Who are all these people? These are those generations later that now come with a real reason and real history. It's their sons and their daughters that look back and say, you killed my father, and that's why I am who I am today. So I don't ever see that cycle ending through warfare such as this. And that's why my perspective is highly skeptical, and I feel betrayed to not have knowing that that the foundations of the Make America Great movement are people like myself so highly skeptical of government that you wouldn't provide us with any facts and you wouldn't provide us with any data. And I know that wouldn't have jeopardized your mission to do so. So you just expect us to have great faith when I'm trying to have faith that God put you into office to give politics a second chance in my heart, and I feel like every day that goes by, that's being eroded.
Okay. I can appreciate that. A few things, I guess 3 things that I want to address. For everybody that's watching, I haven't been looking at the comments, but when you say you put your faith and trust in Donald Trump, it's not, obviously we're not talking on a level of salvation. For those, I know you, Brother Matt, some of the viewers may not understand what you mean by that. So I just want to clarify and correct me if I'm wrong in any of that. I don't think you will, but I think I'm right in that.
Oh, it's very simple. That's in the context of I had given up any political hope whatsoever, right? And yes, to believe that Donald Trump was saved by God is indeed putting some faith in Donald Trump. And I don't have to hide from that particular position.
Yeah.
There's a large faith putting in Donald Trump, in fact, a very large faith, because Jesus Christ is not a human being on the earth.
Yeah. Secondly is this, if you could share my screen, you talked about President Donald Trump, how he said he was going to give 2 weeks. And this was a post from Brett Baer. He's a Fox news anchor, senior news anchor. He said this, he said, I talked with President Trump tonight on the phone, and he touted the tremendous success of the military operation. No other military could have done that. He added, 2 days was within 2 weeks, pointing to his comment on making a decision within 2 weeks for operational security. And that's the truth. Now, I believe that Donald Trump was very strategic when he said that. Those were his exact words, that he would make his decision within 2 weeks. And I had saw somebody on Facebook that had made that post. And when I saw that post, I immediately thought that was a detractor. That was a misdirection. And the reason why I believe that is because it was shortly after that he said that. This was shortly before, or not too long before that had happened, that Donald Trump said that, was the surprise attack from Israel on Iran. And I had read a report stating that the media was putting out deflectors about Benjamin Netanyahu, that he was going to a wedding in the United States and that he was going to be making his trip to the White House. And all of a sudden, boom, there was the strikes from Israel on Iran, and completely caught Iran off guard. And so when I saw that Donald Trump had said that, and I saw this guy had posted that, I was like, immediately, I was like, man, that's probably a deflector. I could probably even pull up the post and pull up my comment on this brother's post. But and sure enough, it was a deflector, and that's what Trump had said, and that was a quote from Brett Baer. Thirdly, third thing that I wanted to talk about in this, Brother Matt, is if you are still sharing my screen, we should be seeing something that was that we talked about last week. Okay. And I think this is very, very important. Okay. To why we saw what we saw yesterday. Okay. This was from Mike Huckabee. Okay. And I posted this on June 17th on my X account. If you guys haven't already, please follow us on X. A link to that is in the description below. And also, we do have a new YouTube channel, Faith the Nation YouTube channel. Also, please support us by subscribing to the YouTube channel. A link to that should also be in the description below as well. And so we look for your support there as also. But this, again, this was on June 17th. This was from Governor Mike Huckabee, who's the ambassador to Israel. And he had sent a text message to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump had posted it on his Truth Social page. And I'm going to quote it again. It says, "Mr. President, God spared you in Butler, Pennsylvania, to be the most consequential president in a century, maybe ever. The decisions on your shoulders, would not want to be made by anyone else. You have many voices speaking to you, sir, but there is only one voice that matters, his voice. I am your appointed servant in this land, and I'm available for you. But I do not try to get in your presence often because I trust your instincts. No president in my lifetime has been in a position like yours, not since Truman in 1945. I don't reach out to persuade you, only to encourage you. I believe you will hear from heaven. And that voice is far more important than mine or anyone else's. You sent me to Israel to be your eyes, ears, and voice, and to make sure our flag flies above our embassy. My job is to be the last one to leave. I will not abandon this post. Our flag will not come down. You did not seek this moment. This moment sought you. It is my honor to serve you." Mike Huckabee. Donald Trump retweeted that. And I truly believe that just like we all do, that Donald Trump's life was spared that day on July 13th, which is almost a year ago to the day, which was actually what sparked this podcast, Faith the Nation. Actually, me and Brother Andy went live that day to talk about what had just happened. But God definitely spared Donald Trump's life. Definitely. Donald Trump admits it, that God spared his life. Now, we can get tunnel vision. We can have our blinders on, like a horse, a racehorse that has his, blinders on. You can't see anything else but what's in front of you. And oftentimes we as people, fallible humans, oftentimes we only see what is really just right in front of us. We cannot see the entire chessboard that God is maneuvering around. And yeah, I do believe that God spared Donald Trump's life, and I think most of us probably do have that same sentiments. Mike Huckabee expressed his belief that this moment was the reason God spared his life. And it was for what was either to happen, what decision he was going to make. Maybe it was because he knew that God would hear, or that Trump would hear the voice of God. And I believe that that moment changed Donald Trump. I truly believe it. I don't know what was going on before, but what I can tell you is, in my testimony, I can relate to having a gun go off right by your head as part of my testimony before I came to the Lord. It happened to me. Not to the degree of Donald Trump where it hit my ear or anything like that, but I had a gun go off right by my head. And that's when I knew I needed to get right with God. And after the attack, Brother Matt, after the attack, we had heard from Donald Trump. Donald Trump had made an announcement from the White House, and we're going to play that announcement and make sure that my screen share is up.